Today, you will learn something about the magic of believing, how to use the strength of belief. Chapter 1. Is there a force, factor, power, science, or whatever you want to call it, that only a few people understand and can use to get through tough situations and achieve great things? Without a doubt, I think there is. My goal here is to try to explain it so that you can use it if you want to. I know I've found something useful, but I don't think of it as magical in any way, other than the fact that most people don't know about it or don't entirely understand it. I know that there are strong forces in this country that want to take over and replace the system of competition that has made America great among nations with a more rigid one. I think that we should keep the rich spirit of our ancestors alive on. If we don't, a small group of powerful people will control everything we do, and we will become slaves in practice, if not in name. Some people might call me a kook or a screwball for this work, but I hope it helps people think more deeply about their own ideas. That's something I know for sure. Let me start by saying that I am over 50 years old and have worked as a newspaperman for many years, as well as having a lot of hard-earned business knowledge. I first worked as a police writer. It's in their job to find out the truth and not assume anything. It looks like I was born with a huge interest bump. I've always had a strong desire to find answers and reasons. This need has led me to a lot of strange places, brought to light a lot of strange cases, and made me read every book I could get my hands on about religions, cults, and the physical and mental sciences. I've read a huge number of books about many different topics, such as modern psychology, philosophy, old magic, voodoo, yoga, theosophy, Christian Science, unity, truth, new thought, and many more. That's what I call mind stuff. Many of these books didn't make sense, some were weird, and many were very deep. Over time, I learned that all the lessons have a golden thread that connects them and makes them work for people who truly accept and follow them. Believe is the only word that can describe that thread. Being able to believe in something is the same thing that heals people mentally, helps others succeed, and gets amazing results for everyone who accepts it. There is real magic in believing, even though it is impossible to explain why belief works like a miracle. The term, the magic of believing, kept coming back to me in my mind. I've tried to make these ideas as clear and simple as possible so that everyone can understand. I hope that everyone who hears me will be helped to reach their life goal. First, I'd like to talk about a few things that happened in my own life. I hope that by hearing them, you will understand the whole field of science better. I arrived in France at the beginning of 1918 as a casual soldier who wasn't part of a normal company. Because of this, it took a few weeks for my service record to catch up with me, which was needed for my pay. I didn't have any money at that time to buy things like gum, candy, smokes, and so on. I felt bad every time I saw a man smoke or chew gum because I didn't have any money to treat myself. I was eating in army clothes that they gave me, and they also gave me a place to sleep on the ground. But I got angry because I didn't have any money to spend and couldn't find a way to get some. One night, on a busy army train going to the front lines, it was impossible to sleep. I then made up my mind that I would have a lot of money when I got back to normal life. That moment changed the course of my whole life. At that very moment, I wasn't aware of it, but I was setting the basis for a new direction in my life. This would set off forces that would lead to success. The thought that my thinking and believing could help me make a lot of money never crossed my mind. You might want more than just money. It does not matter what purpose the science is used for. It will help you get what you want. And to tie this all together, let me share another story. I chose to go to the East many years ago and took a ship called the Empress of Japan. On that trip, something was going well for me. I didn't expect anything special from the service, but I sat at the executive officer's table and was often his special guest in his rooms and on trip around the ship to check things out. Of course, the way I was treated made a big effect on me. While I was in Honolulu, I often thought, it would be nice to get the same treatment on my way home on a different ship. One afternoon, I suddenly felt the urge to go to the mainland. When I got to the ticket office, it was almost time to close. Someone told me that a ship was leaving the next day at noon and that I could get the last cabin ticket. I purchased it, and the following day, just before noon, I began to climb the gangplank. I thought to myself, they treated you like a king on the Empress of Japan. The least you can do here is sit at the captain's table. Sure, you'll sit at the captain's table. The ship steamed out of the harbour, and as we left, the dining room steward told the passengers to go to the dining room to be given their seats. When I met him, about half of the tasks had already been done. I put my ticket on the table, and he asked for it. He took a quick look at it, and then turned to me and said, "Oh yes, table A, seat number 5. I was sitting across from him at the captain's table. On that ship, a lot of things happened that were related to the topic. The most important was a party that was meant to be for my birthday, but wasn't because it was months away. It was just the captain's idea. I know that this subject has been looked at from many different sides before I present this very useful science. It's also something I know that a lot of people avoid, things that have to do with religion, the occult, or philosophy. So, I'm writing it in the style of a businessman who thinks that honest thought and straightforward communication will get any idea across to people. You are given this science with the understanding that it will work no matter what you do with it. However, I want to tell you not to use it for bad or harmful things. There have been two big hidden forces in the world since the start of time, good and evil. In their own areas and cycles, both are incredibly strong. Mind power, or hidden mind power, is what makes them work. Because of this, be very careful not to abuse the science of mind stuff. It's important to stress this because if you use it for bad or damaging things, it will come back to hurt you, just like it has done to others over the ages. These are not just empty words, they are serious warnings. Chapter 2. How Thoughts Can Change Things. Take a look around. When you are in a room that is decorated, your eyes tell you that you are looking at a bunch of things that are not alive. When it comes to visual perception, that's true. But in fact, what you're seeing are thoughts or ideas that have come to life through the artistic work of individuals. It was first a thought that made the furniture, the window glass, the coverings and drapes, the car, the building, the great planes that reach the heavens, the sewing machine, the tiny pin, 1,001 things, yes, millions of things. Where did they first come from? Thought, that strange force, is the only cause. As we learn more, we understand that all of these successes and the things we own were made possible by our original thought. All wealth, success, material gain, great finds, ideas and accomplishments start with a thought. With this in mind, it's simple to see how a man's thoughts can either make or break him, and Shakespeare's words, "There is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so," become more meaningful. A lot of people think that working hard is the only way to get ahead. I want to make it clear, though, that hard work by itself won't get you anywhere. There are many people in the world who have worked hard but don't have much to show for it. It takes more than just hard work. You need to be able to think creatively and have faith in your own abilities. A lot of the great people in history were smart, and their hands were just tools they used to think. It's also important to remember that you need to be obsessed with your goal, have clear thoughts and ideas about how to reach it, and focus all of your energy on it non-stop. It could be money, fame, or information about your place that you want. Because everyone has a different idea of what success means to them. As long as you are ready to make the goal the most important thing in your life, you can get whatever you want. You say it's a big order? Not at all, no. You can get all of your inner forces to work for you by using the dynamic force of belief. These forces will then help you reach your goal. It's time to figure out what you really want. This will help you understand the role that thought and desire play in your daily life. Most people start with the vague idea that they just want to be successful, but that's not specific enough. You need to have a clear picture of the pattern in your mind. Ask yourself, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Have I really thought about what I want? How much money should be used to measure success? Can you give a number? If it's in terms of performance, could you be more specific? Why do I ask these questions? Because the solutions will affect the rest of your life. It may seem strange, but not a single person in 100 can answer these questions. A lot of people know that they want to be successful, but they don't know how to get there. Living from day to day, they think that if they have a job today, they will have one tomorrow, and that someone will take care of them when they get old. They float around randomly in the water like a cork, being pushed in different directions by the currents. Eventually, they either wash up on the shore or get too wet and sink. So, it's very important to know what you want from life. You need to know where you're going and keep your eye on a clear goal. That's the only way to get what you want. If you want to do something or get more than you have now, you have to start with a wish. But, as we'll see, it's not just desire. Some people say that thought draws to itself what it is focused on. Thoughts draw to them what they are aimed at. Because of what Job said, "For the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me." Our negative thoughts are just as creative or attractive in bringing us problems as our positive and helpful thoughts are in bringing us good things. So, the thought does make things of the same kind, no matter what kind it is. When a man really thinks about this, he starts to understand the amazing power that is his to use. I still believe that thoughts can create and control things beyond what humans have yet to understand, but that they can only create based on their pitch, energy, emotional quality, depth of feeling, or vibrational plane. To put it another way, like the range and power of a radio station, thoughts have a creative or directing force that depends on how strong, consistent, and many times they happen. Let me try to make that clear. Even though many ideas have been put forward, no one is sure if thought is a form of electricity or something else that hasn't been named yet. But I have done experiments in high-frequency energy, which was first brought to the world by the great mind Nikola Tesla. And whenever I think of thought and the waves and movements that come from it, I automatically think of electricity and its effects. In this way, they are easier to understand. I think that everyone who lives at a high elevation has felt and sometimes seen the electric spark that happens when you walk across the room and touch something metal. Of course, that's a type of static electricity that comes from friction. It gives you an idea of how the body can make one type of electricity. The famous Austrian psychologist Sigmund Freud popularized the idea that we all have a powerful force inside us, a part of the mind that is different from our conscious mind, that shapes our thoughts, feelings, and actions all the time. People have given this part of our thoughts many names, such as the soul, the superego, the inner power, the superconsciousness, the unconscious, the subconscious, and more. It's not an organ or real matter in the way we normally think of them. The brain is what it is. It has been there since the start of time. Man has known about it for a long time. It was often called the spirit by the ancients. It was known as the will by Paracelsus. Some people have called it the mind, or an extra part of the brain. Some people have called it consciousness, the thing that makes the still small voice inside. Some people have called it intelligence and said that it is a part of the great intelligence that connects all of us. I like the word subconscious better than any other name. It is known to be the source of life and no one knows how strong it is. It stays awake all the time. It helps us out when things are really bad. It tells us that danger is coming. It helps us do things that seem impossible. It helps us in many ways and, when used correctly, does what some call wonders. There is a good chance that the most effective way to get your subconscious to act is to use your imagination and make mental pictures of the thing or situation as you would like it to be in real life. This is what most people call visualization. You have to really believe, though, for this image to work. Now I want to talk about a deep-seated belief, a strong, positive faith that runs through your whole body. It's the force that brings great results when you believe with all your heart and soul. You can call it a feeling, a spiritual force, a type of energy vibration, or anything else you want. It activates the law of attraction and lets continuous thinking connect with its target. This idea changes the speed of your mind or thought frequency. It's like a big magnet pulling in subconscious forces that change your whole aura and affect everything around you, even people and things far away. It changes your life in ways that are sometimes surprising and often things you never thought were possible. This is Chapter 3, What the Subconscious is a Good Staff. Kelly was a famous French psychologist and author of From the Unconscious to the Conscious. He once wrote, "There is no artist, man of science, or writer of any distinction, however little disposed to self-analysis, who is not personally aware of the unparalleled importance of the subconscious." Kelly also said that the best results in life came from the conscious mind working together with the subconscious mind. Because the subconscious is such an important part of the magic of thinking, it will help you understand this science faster if you have a clear picture of what the subconscious mind is, where it is, and how it works. The source of thought is now the aware mind. The mind also gives us the awareness that we are ourselves right now, the ability to recognize and understand our surroundings, the ability to control our mental faculties, the ability to recall past life events, and the ability to comprehend the meaning of our emotions. More specifically, it helps us understand the things and people around us in a logical way, as well as our own strengths and weaknesses, the strength of an argument, or the beauty of a work of art. We often find the answer to our problems when we use our aware minds, but sometimes, when the answer isn't there, we give up because we're tired of trying. It's easy to give up when we start to doubt our abilities. We sometimes accept that we have failed and can't change things. This is where your subconscious mind comes in. It makes us believe in ourselves again. It helps us get through our problems and gets us on the path to success and progress. The subconscious is where power comes from, just like the waking mind is where thoughts come from. It is also one of the most important facts of life. And even though it comes from gut and knows what a person really wants, it is always pushing up into conscious awareness. The subconscious has many abilities, but the most important ones are intuition, feeling, certainty, inspiration, suggestion, reasoning, vision, organization, memory, and dynamic energy. It is a separate thing. It has powers and works by organizing its thoughts in a way that is all its own. Now, the subconscious mind does three main things. For starters, it takes care of the body's health and survival without any help from the conscious mind because it knows what the body needs intuitively. Second, it acts right away again in times of great danger without the conscious mind's help. In order to save someone's life, you need to be in charge and act with extreme certainty, speed, accuracy, and knowledge. Third, it works in the mental world, where psychic abilities from the subconscious take form in things like telepathy, clairvoyance, and psychokinesis. But it can also be called upon to help the aware mind when it's really needed. The third function that we are most interested in here is when the conscious mind asks the subconscious to use its powers and resources to fix a serious problem or make something happen that the person wants or needs. You must first be sure that what you are asking for is actually yours and that you are able to handle it before you can use the resources and powers of your subconscious. When someone's subconscious shows up, it only does so based on their skills. After that, you need to be patient and have full faith. A French scholar named Theodore Simon Geoffroy said, "The subconscious mind will not take the trouble to work for those who do not believe in it." Next, when you tell your subconscious what you need, you must do so with the belief that the work has already been done. It's important to feel and think that you are successful, but it's even more important to see yourself as successful, either in the job you are working on or in the place you want to be in. You need to be patient for the next and final step. Your subconscious mind is taking in all the parts of your problem and will figure it out on its own in due time. The answer to your problem will come to you as the thoughts and plans of your subconscious mind flow into your waking mind. The right thing to do will be made clear. You must follow those signs right away and without any doubt. There should be no doubt, pause, or thought process on your part. You have to let the subconscious send you a message, and once you understand it, you have to act on it right away. That's the only way to get your subconscious to work for you and keep responding when you call on it. That being said, your problem might not be able to be fixed in that way. You might not get the answer in the form of a plan, but instead feel a mysterious force pushing you to do things that don't seem to have any special meaning or logical link. Even so, you have to keep believing in the power and wisdom of your subconscious and do the things that don't seem to matter. One day, with the help of your subconscious, you'll be where you saw yourself and doing the work you imagined for yourself. After a while, you'll see that the things you were asked to do all fit together in a way that made sense. The last thing you did was arrive, which was the fulfillment of all your deepest hopes and dreams and your own personal victory. Chapter 4. The Power of Suggestion. When you learn about all the different mystical cults, lessons, and mind systems, you'll notice that they all work in pretty much the same way, by repeating things over and over again. Some people who follow witch doctors, voodoo high priests, hexes, and other strange groups often repeat chants, words, formulas, or just plain nonsense. They call on the dead or do black magic with them. The same idea is at work in chants, incantations, litanies, daily lessons, and the frequent prayer of both Buddhists and Muslims. It is also at work in the statement of the Theosophists and followers of unity, and it is at work in the absolute true new thought divine science. In fact, all faiths use it, though in this case it's white magic instead of black magic. This brings us to the law of suggestion, which says that all forces that work within its limits can do amazing things. This means that the system starts to work, or the subconscious mind starts to think of new ideas. This can be auto-suggestion, suggestions you give to yourself, or heterosuggestion, suggestions from other people. This is where the mantras and repeats come in handy. Repeating the same chant, spell, or statement over and over again makes you believe it. Things start to happen when that idea turns into a strong certainty. This is the exact same force and system that Hitler used to get the German people ready to attack the rest of the world. That is clear from reading Mein Kampf. A famous French psychologist named Dr. René Fauvel said that Hitler had a great understanding of the law of suggestion and how it can be used in different ways. He used every tool of propaganda in his powerful campaign of suggestion with amazing skill and top-notch showmanship. Hitler said out loud that anyone who knew how to use the psychology of suggestion could make terrible weapons. Let's look at how he got the Germans to believe what he wanted them to believe, and how they began their campaign of fear once they did. All over Germany, slogans, big signs, posters, and flags with masks were put up. There were pictures of Hitler everywhere. The words, "One Reich, one folk, one leader," were chanted. Everyone heard it. The Nazis' rallying cry was, "Today we own Germany, tomorrow the whole world." Every day, thousands of people sang this song. People were constantly being told that Germany has waited long enough. Stand up, you are the aristocrats of the Third Reich. Germany is behind Hitler to a man, and many other phrases were being shown on signs, the radio, and newspapers. They thought they were better than everyone else every time they moved, turned, or talked to each other. They set out to prove it, while this idea, which had been reinforced by repeated suggestions, hypnotized them. As it turned out, the Germans lost because other countries also had strong national views that contributed to their loss. Let us look at sports, because anyone who has ever watched a football or baseball game has seen this power of suggestion at work. Famed Notre Dame coach Knut Rocken knew how useful suggestions could be and used them a lot. But he always made sure that his way of using it fit the personality of the people he was working with. According to a story, Notre Dame was having a very tough game one Sunday afternoon and was far behind at the end of the first half. The guys were nervously waiting for Rockne to show up in their locker room. The door finally opened, and Rockne's head slowly came in. As he looked around the group, he was interested. "Excuse me, I messed up. I thought these were the quarters for the Notre Dame team." The door shut, and Rockne was gone, leaving everyone confused and then angry. They played in the second half and won. This same force of suggestion worked extra hard every day during the Great Depression, and maybe in the years to come as well. We heard the phrase, "Times of hard businesses pour the banks of failing prosperity, hasn't a chance." And even though there were lots of stories about companies failing, it became the national chant. Millions of people think that the good old days will never come back. Hundreds or even thousands of strong-willed men gave up because they were constantly hit with the same scary thoughts. Always sensitive, money runs for cover when fear-based ideas start to spread. Soon after, businesses fail and people lose their jobs. We heard a lot of stories about banks failing and big worries going up in the air, and people believed them and acted on them. If most people understand that their own fearful thoughts are what make things hard, there will never be another business slump. They think bad times are coming, and they do. One of the best psychologists and former presidents of Northwestern University, Dr. Walter Gill Scott, said it best. Success or failure in business is caused more by mental attitude than by mental capacities. A lot of people believe in charms, talismans, amulets, good luck pieces, four-leaf clovers, old horseshoes, a rabbit's foot, and a lot of other small things. By themselves, they are just harmless things that don't have any power. But people give them life by believing they do, even though they don't actually have any power. Believing is the only thing that gives them power and makes them work. The stories of Alexander the Great and Napoleon are great examples of this being true. In the time of Alexander, an oracle said that the person who untied the Gordian knot would rule all of Asia. You may remember that Alexander cut the knot with one swing of his sword and became very powerful and achieved great heights. As a child, Napoleon was given a star diamond with the wish that it would bring him happiness and one day make him Emperor of France. What else could have made these two great men get into the Hall of Fame besides their complete faith in the prophecy? The supernatural ideas they had made them into great men. Here's a simple experiment that will show you the strange power of concentration to attract things by picturing them and making them happen. Get some small rocks or pebbles that are easy to throw. Find a tree or post that is 6 to 10 inches across. Put yourself about 25 to 30 feet away from it. Attempt to hit the tree by throwing rocks at it. If you're like most people, most of the stones will miss their mark. Now pause and tell yourself you can reach the goal. Picture in your mind the tree taking a step forward to meet the stone. Imagine that the rock really hits the tree where you want it to. You'll get a perfect score soon enough. Don't say it's impossible, just do it and see for yourself. Now you just need to believe it. Chapter 5. The Art of Making Brain Pictures. Building a mental picture of the person you want to be is the first step toward becoming that person. If you keep holding on to that picture, one day you will become that person. Now let's look at some of the things that this great truth means. As Shakespeare said, "Assume the virtue if you have it not. You are assuming the virtue through your imagination." However, it is important to note the difference between thinking and a real mental picture, or the right way to use your imagination. There must be a genie who can drop $100,000 into your lap or give you a house overnight. I've never met one, but daydreaming or just hopeful thinking won't bring you the $100,000 or the house. If you use your mind right, you can picture yourself doing something and then you do it. It's doing the thing you've been picturing that makes it real. In this case, think about how the magnifying glass can be used. If you aim it right, it will take light from the sun and focus it so that the heat from it will burn a hole in whatever it hits. Before the heat power can be used, it has to be kept steady, just like when you hold on to an idea or mental picture. The average person, on the other hand, finds it hard to focus for any amount of time, let alone keep a mental picture in their mind for a long time. You are constantly influenced by what you read and hear. Because of this, the part of your creative force that coordinates starts to bring all the different parts together into a focused mass, instead of making a clear and moving picture of what you want. A lot of the time, when I put flower or veggie seeds, I think about this idea of desire and suggestion. It doesn't take long for the tiny seeds to start to root and grow after the dirt is ready. As soon as they start to climb through the ground in search of light, water and warmth, barriers don't matter. They will push small rocks or pieces of wood out of the way, and if they can't, they will grow around them. It can be with you. What you tell your subconscious mind can have simple or complex effects, based on the seed you plant and how much attention you give it. That is, plant the right kind of seed and regularly water it with strong, positive thoughts that always point to the same goal. As it grows, it will become a powerful force that can get past any problem. I have been in the private offices of many businesses, world leaders in industry, top bankers, and other important people. I was impressed by the pictures, photos, slogans, statues, and other things that were inside the inner sanctums of big companies long before I knew the magic of believing. A lot of you have probably seen or heard of these kinds of shows, but have you ever thought about what they were used for? There is only one answer, and that is that they serve as a steady warning, showing the person in the room that he can also succeed, just like those who came before him. It's clear that Thomas A. Edison, like many other great men, knew the value of repeated advice and used it. One of the things found in his desk was a piece of paper that said, "When down in the mouth, remember Jonah. He came out all right." Edison must have liked that saying and maybe thought about it a lot. Let's get to the bottom of it. Get 3 or 4 cards. Regular business cards will work. Sit down alone in your office, home, room, or anywhere else you can find peace and quiet, and ask yourself what you want most. When the answer comes, and you are sure it is what you really want, write a word picture of it at the top of one card. It might only take 1 or 2 words. A job, a better job, money, your own house. Then, copy the word picture from the first card and put it on each card. One can go in your wallet or purse. One can be put next to your bed or attached to it. One can be on your vanity or bathroom mirror. and the last one can be on your desk. As you might have guessed, the whole point is to let you see the picture in your mind at any time of the day. Before going to sleep at night and when you wake up in the morning are two of the most important times of the day to focus stronger on your thoughts. Don't stop after those 2 times, though. The faster the wish comes true, the more often you can picture it using this way or one of your own creation. You might not know how the results will turn out at first. Don't worry about it. Just let your subconscious mind handle it. It can make connections and open doors and paths that you might not have even thought of. Other people will help you in ways you don't expect. One day, you might have the sudden urge to see someone you haven't talked to in a long time, or to call on a man you've never seen before. You might decide to write a letter or call them. Follow the thought no matter what it is. You should not tell anyone what the words on the cards mean. This need not be said enough. Don't let anyone know what you want. When you talk about what you're going to do, you actually spread out your efforts and lose touch with your subconscious. This means that you often have to start your program of achievement all over again if you don't change your mind. The saying, "Go and tell no man," is still true. Let's say you want a raise or a better job. Not only should you use the cards, you should also tell yourself over and over that you will get that job. Visualizing it is already part of your mind if you believe this science, but repeating it will help it stick in your subconscious mind even more. It's kind of like putting a nail into a board. The nail is put in place in the first step, but it needs a few heavy hits to be pushed home. From what I've seen, both people who are aware of using this science and people who may be using it unknowingly are very energetic, almost like human dynamos. People like that not only use their imaginations and strongly believe what they say, but they also get things done. That brings me to the most important thing I want to say. Faith without action is dead. The Mirror Method, Chapter 6. I'd like to call this other tool the mirror technique. Before I tell you about it, I'd like to tell you how I found out about what a great thing it is and how it can be used to get results faster and better. I ate dinner with a very rich man many years ago who owned many patents for wood and sawing equipment. He had called several newspaper publishers, bankers and business leaders to his room in a well-known hotel to talk about a new way he had come up with to run a mill. Dinner was late coming out, and there was a lot of alcohol available, so the host was embarrassingly drunk. I saw him stumble into his bedroom just before dinner and quickly pull himself up in front of his dresser. I followed him to his room door because I thought I could help him, and as I stood there, I saw him mumble and hold onto the edge of the tabletop with both hands. He was also staring into the mirror. After his words started to make sense, I stepped back a bit to watch the show. He said, "John, they tried to get you drunk, but you're going to fool them. You're sober, cold sober. This is your party, and you've got to be sober." As he kept saying these words and looking at himself in the glass, I could see that he was changing. As he drank, his body straightened out, his face muscles got stronger, and he lost his drunk look. Even though the show was over in 5 minutes, I had never seen such a quick change in my job as a newspaper writer, especially as a police reporter. I went to the bathroom because I didn't want him to know that I was watching him. I went back to the dining room and saw the host sitting at the head of the table. He looked like he wasn't drunk. He told a very exciting and believable story about his new plans at the end of the dinner. I didn't fully understand the science behind turning the clearly drunk man into a cold, sober host until a long time later, when I learned more about the power of the subconscious mind. This mirror trick has been used for years by many great speakers, preachers, artists, and politicians. Drew Pearson says that Winston Churchill never gave a major speech unless he first did it in front of a mirror. The same method was also used by Woodrow Wilson. I call it a supercharging way to boost the subconscious forces. Eric Sevareid writes in his book, Not So Wild a Dream, that this mirror technique shows how powerful and magnetic Billy Sunday, the great evangelist, was. Billy Sunday would run around his hotel room, looking out the window with one foot on the sill and lecturing his reflection in the mirror while holding the vanity table firmly in both hands. To explain the method, stand in front of a mirror. Any mirror big enough to see your body from the waist up is fine. It doesn't have to be a full-length mirror. For those of you who have been in the army, you know how to stand to attention. Your head should be up, your chest should be out, and your legs should be together. Now take 3 or 4 deep breaths until you feel strong, determined, and full of power. Next, look deep into your eyes. Say to yourself, "I will get what I want." Say the word out loud so that you can see and hear your lips move. Turn it into a habit. You should do it at least twice a day, in the morning and at night. After a few days, you'll be amazed at how well it works. Within yourself, you have grown a confidence that you did not know you could have. With this power, your gaze will be so deep that people will think you are seeing into their souls. At some point, there will be an energy that will show how strong your thinking is. The exact rank of a man can be seen in his eyes, according to Emerson. Remember that what's in your eyes shows what level you're at in life, so work on getting eyes that show confidence. You can use the mirror to help you. For your own safety, I'm going to assume that none of you think that the techniques I'm about to show you will make you rich and famous fast. Of course, it's not a good idea to jump into projects that are way beyond your skills or level of growth. But this science could help you figure out the different steps you need to take to get to the top. But before you start any program, you need to have a plan. Being clear about what you want is important, as long as you keep the picture in your mind and start taking steps to make it happen. There is nothing that can stop you from succeeding, because the subconscious mind always does what it is told, loud and clear. Chapter 7. How to spread your thoughts. In this part, I'd like to talk about a few things that I think are related to the mind. Do not call it a mix. It's rare that we are aware of how much our emotions affect others and how much they affect us. When someone in a position of power is very worried, they can make almost everyone around them nervous. Always keep in mind that a negative person can cause a lot of trouble in a home or group. A strong bad attitude can do as much harm as good. When the two are put up against each other, the negative usually wins. To get a better idea of how these suggestive vibes work, just think about how your feelings change when you walk into different homes or businesses. The environment, which is made by the people who live there, can be quickly recognized as upsetting, disturbing, peaceful, or harmonious. We are much more affected by the feelings that other people send out than we think. People we are more or less constantly around shape us into the people they are. Stick to being around positive people and stay away from negative or gloomy people as much as possible. Now let me talk about something else. If you want to be rich, you have to go where the rich are. If a man were to be alone in the desert, it would probably be hard for him to make a living, let alone try to get rich, just like in everyday life. So, if you want money, you should hang out with people who already have it, or know how to get it. If you want to find money, you have to go where it is and see where it is being spent. This may sound pretty gross. You also need to get to know the people who have the power to spend the money. If you're an advertising salesman and you know that the boss has the final say, it's not worth your time to try to persuade small-time workers and junior execs. It doesn't matter if you're trying to sell something else, or, more importantly, yourself. Finally, having the right mindset is very important. Making sure you're properly dressed, keeping your eyes on the goal, and creating the right aura around you, either through your thoughts or your natural attraction, will work wonders. Du Spenard learned this when he was surrounded by Tibetans and stoned. He was in his Tower of the Gods at the time. In his book, He writes that his first thought was to fight, but that thought was quickly thrown out when he remembered how to take on and keep his aura. He then straightened his shoulders, raised his head high, fixed his eyes on the straight ahead, and took a strong, quick step forward. While most people in the crowd stood back, some moved to make room for him. Man will rule over the world and everything on it when he fully understands the great power of his mind and works hard to use it. You have this inner spark, but it needs to be lit until it becomes a white-hot fire. It also needs to be kept alive by adding fuel like ideas, more ideas, and action. I have tried to make it clear how this power through belief can be developed and to take you up the ladder as far as you wish to go, says Chapter 8. It is important to note, though, that it's simple to lose faith or believe. Thousands of people have reached great heights of success only to trip, roll, or fall to depths they never thought possible. Another group of people who were looking for health seemed to be magically fixed, but their illnesses came back years or even months later. There are a lot of weakening factors and influences that we let into our subconscious thoughts when we are not paying attention. These are all encouraging. Once these factors start to do harm, they can undo all the good work that our creative forces have done. Go out in front, face the sun, and stay that way. The dark clouds will not get in your way. I know it's hard for the normal person who doesn't know much about this to believe that everything is inside. But even the most selfish person must know that, from his own point of view, there is nothing on the outside plane unless he knows about it, or it becomes a part of his awareness. The picture he makes in his mind is what makes the world around him real. Many people look for happiness, but only a few find it. This means that happiness is completely up to each of us. Our surroundings and the normal things that happen in our lives have no effect on our happiness unless we let pictures of the outside world into our minds. Happiness has nothing to do with status, money, or things you own. We can change our state of mind, and the way we think is what makes that change possible. He asked, "What is the hardest thing in the world to do?" To think. This makes sense when you think about how most of us are affected by mass thought and take in what other people say. We all know that you can't break the rule of cause and effect. But how many of us ever stop to think about how it works? A man's whole life has been changed many times by a single thought that came to him in an instant and turned into a powerful force that changed everything. And throughout history, there are many examples of people with strong minds and strong wills who were able to inspire others by sticking to their beliefs. And even though they faced huge and determined resistance, they built great companies, huge empires, and whole new worlds out of nothing. They didn't have all the power to think. You and every other person have it. Use it. Then you will change into the person you picture in your mind. Know your strength and who you are. If you use the cards and mirror methods as directed, you will get results that are far beyond your wildest dreams. If you believe that believing is a real form of creative magic, then magic will happen, because believing in yourself will give you the strength to do anything you set your mind to. If you get back your faith with a strong will, you will be unable to be stopped.